and my life in the meantime was falling apart. And I say my body performed what I can only call a revolt.
Kate White is a body partnership guide and creative alchemist. After 2 life-threatening brain blood clots and a failing liver, she began a journey she calls the Body Odyssey, transforming pain into presence and disconnection into art. Take us back to your lowest point. What was happening in your life that kind of got you here?
I went to my bed and I was so depressed. I think I thought I was just going to go lay down and die, like a little dog in the woods.
How did you realize that it was time for you to start helping other people too?
I started painting and that opened a little world. All the armor I'd put on all those years just kept me further from understanding the messages my body was sending me. And I knew that this was the calling that had been waiting for me at this point in my life. You know, I hope and pray that people find Body Odyssey, find the Embrace method before their body shuts down into a place where they're crawling to get out of it. And even if that's where you are, that's where I was. And this method will help you.
Hello and welcome to Radical TV. I am Shawna Smith. Joining me here today is Kate White. Kate is a body partnership guide and creative alchemist. Hello, Kate. How are you?
Hey there. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, this is so exciting to talk to you. First of all, I want to hear all about this. Tell us what you're up to, what you're doing. It sounds so fascinating.
Okay. All right. So I'll just start with the body partnership part of the introduction, because that is really what brought me on this journey. I was in education for 30 years. I was a teacher and a school principal. And, I was busy teaching other people how to, manifest their lives. And my life in the meantime was falling apart. And I say my body performed what I can only call a revolt. And I had 2 separate blood clots in the brain, which both could have been fatal. My liver, the thing that knocked me over into being a body partnership guide was my liver. I had fatty liver and I went in for a fibroscan and I was 3.8 out of a scale of 4 towards cirrhosis. And once you hit cirrhosis, it's irreversible. So that was, if the brain blood clots were not a wake-up call, the liver was. So I started listening to my body. I had retired. I'd gone through this major depression. I'd found art. I'd found this beautiful new hobby of painting. I had no clue I could paint. I painted the mandala behind me, and it's a process. It's an intuitive painting process. And what I learned is that we've got to be partners with our body, not fighting them. So I've now created my own classroom where I get to teach people to do that. And it's a program I call Body Odyssey because it has been a twisty, turny, up and down, beautiful, agonizing, anguishing journey. And so I've created a 9-week course where we walk through listening to the body's signals. So often, in this world we live in, we live what I call from the neck up. We live up here, either dissociated in this outer space out here, not in our bodies at all, or we live up here in our heads thinking and analyzing things. And we forget we have anything below the chin. We forget about the throat and swallowing and breathing. We forget about the heart. We forget about all of the organs below. We forget about our muscles and that we have a skeleton behind these muscles to hold us up. And when we forget about those things, they just atrophy and they go away until a point that they have to scream to be heard. And that's what happened to me through those situations.
Boy.
So I've created through that 9-week program, I've created a process, a method called Embrace.
Yes. Tell us about Embrace. That's your unique magic method. And tell us, about that. What's the first step?
The first step is embodiment. And just like I was talking about, It's getting from the neck down and being in your body. So an example would be just feel your feet on the floor right now. Press your toes into the floor and just sit there. Put your hand on your thighs and feel that you have thighs. And when you do that, you automatically become aware of your sit bones, and then you automatically become aware of your spine. And all of a sudden you've got arms too. And you're just present in your body to be able to do this exercise that we call life.
It's so amazing. I worked with the shamans, and one of the books that I have from them, they've said that a lot of people in Western culture, like it's like they're 3 feet off the ground.
Yes.
You know, so it's
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about. And
Yes.
oh, total. Like this is me. I get it.
Yeah.
I totally understand. Okay.
Yeah.
So from E in embrace, you go to the M. And what's that?
M is movement, and it's not what people think exercise, and it's not what people think dance. It's both. It's so much more. It is a way to show the body that you're safe when you are confronting difficult or traumatic or triggering situations. And so sometimes the movement can be as simple as you get nervous and what you want to do is just flick your hands off and shimmy your shoulders. And you can do that in a meeting when somebody else is, people don't have to know what you're doing. It can be as advanced as dancing like that tube dancer, the windsock that we see at auto dealerships and oil, and letting your body be free and flow. And when you do that, you bypass the sympathetic nervous system, which is the one that is controlling your heart rate going high and your body tensing up and you clenching and turning within. I'll say me, because those are my moves. That's what I do. And so when you're doing that, it bypasses the possibility for your body to continue to run in those neural pathways it's always run in through your brain. And it creates new neural pathways, and it teaches your body that when you're moving, you're safe. So a recent hospital experience with a friend of mine, I was there every day with him, and things were tense and agonizingly difficult. And I would just dance in the hallways while I was pushing him and turn him around in circles so that I was bypassing his sympathetic nervous system too. And just, sometimes we play music and sometimes we wouldn't. But it's as simple as turning that movement into something safe to do in public even. Because the more we move, I notice that if I do it in the grocery aisles, other people do it with me. So you're each one impacts one.
Yeah. We're all one, they say. Take us through the rest of the steps.
Okay. So then comes breath work, and these don't all go in order. Sometimes the breath work comes first. Embodiment always comes first because we have to be in our bodies to be able to do the rest. Sometimes I do breath work next, and it awakens something I need to move through. Breath work is that way to activate. In movement, we've suppressed the sympathetic nervous system. In breath work, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, that system that takes us into rest and digest, that system that takes us into the possibilities that are available to us, not only in our body, but in our mind and in our thinking, in our access to the universe, to our higher selves, I believe spirit talks through us. And so when we activate that breath work, it can be as simple as the box breathing, where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. That's an easy, simple one you can do. Another one you can do in meetings. Nobody even knows you're doing it. My favorite one is the 5-7-8, or any breath where we exhale longer than we inhale, because that's when we are actually activating that parasympathetic nervous system in true time. And what that does is it has us breathe in for 5, hold for 7, and then a slow exhale for 8. And so we've exhaled longer than we've inhaled, which allows us to use the carbon dioxide for our body to become more accustomed to holding carbon dioxide, which actually makes it more available to the mitochondria that work in our system and help to activate stem cells and do all kinds of things. So that's why they call it the inner pharmacy. So breathwork is the next piece. Once we're through that little practice, and I do all three of those before I start anything else, is we reawaken our inner cheerleader. And so our inner cheerleader are all of the versions of ourselves, all of the former versions of ourselves, all of the future versions of ourselves. And the way I do it is we go into a little stadium, actually a big stadium, and you see the stadium filled with people. And you are just amazed at, oh my gosh, what a crowd this is. And then you look closely and you realize that it's full of all of the former versions of you. And in rows 1, 2, and 3 are all the future versions of you. All the former versions of you are shaking pom-poms, holding banners, cheering, playing instruments, just so proud of you for what you've walked through, so confident in what you're going to do next, so telling you, I knew you would make it through. I always knew that hope I had. I knew. And the 80 and 90-year-olds are just going, we're not worried. We know how this works out. You got this. So, there's a whole process where you talk to them and they bring you gifts and they bring you symbols. But basically, we're not doing inner child work where we're healing them. We're allowing them to heal us. And then we move into alignment. So we've done all of that work. We've allowed ourselves to be open to possibilities. We're allowing ourselves to both heal our bodies and become whole in ourselves. We need both. And now we look at alignment, which is your body's inner compass. It's body, mind, and spirit aligned together. It's as within, so without, as above, so below, as the universe, so the soul. And we say those words, but sometimes we don't realize that when we see the chaos out there in the world, it's probably time for us to look into an inner corner inside ourselves, someplace unsettled within us is a little bit of chaos that's we're seeing mirrored out in the world. And I'm not saying we create the chaos. I'm saying we become aware of it to the level that we do, because there's something inside of us that we need to allow to come out. And so sometimes it's as simple as mindset, seeing the chaos in the world as it is and going, I choose for my words to match my actions. And so today I'm going to, and you set a goal for just that day. And then we come to my favorite part and what I was doing when we tuned in today, the creative practice. And the creative practice is, for me, I do a metaphysical painting process. It's a multiple layer process called I Adore. And it's metaphysical because we tune in to what's happening in our bodies, but we also tune in to whatever messages the universe may be sending us. And this is just a little canvas that I worked on in my first session of Body Odyssey this week with a new group. And what I found was this little guy laying here with a little telescope looking up at the Milky Way. And we did this multiple layer process. And what it was telling me is that I'm not alone in the universe, and there's so much out there for me to tap into. And so that was such a poignant message to me. And it came because I kind of closed my eyes and put dots on the canvas. And so I teach people this 5-layer process so that they can use it whenever. I was using it this morning to keep myself in balance after I'd done my little breath work and my embodiment practice and done a little movement on my way over to my chair. I used that to just draw me in and tell me what it was that I might want to focus on today. And then the last E is embodied living. And that's the element that I use to help people set a goal for what it is they'll do between our session and when we meet again. And so it's that taking that alignment and actually putting it into action.
You talked a little bit about this in the beginning. Take us back to your lowest point. What was happening in your life that kind of got you here?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I had been that school administrator. I'd been a school administrator for about 13 years, and the last 4 of it, I put on a lot of weight. I was well over 300 pounds. I don't know how over because I quit weighing myself in the last year and I kept gaining. Um, and my liver was near failure. I had had the 2 blood clots. I needed a knee replacement. And then when I started putting my arms over my head to do exercises with the kids on the playground, I would almost pass out. When I stood to go observe a teacher or stood to leave their room, I would almost pass out. I had to roll my own chair with me. It was quite extreme for me. So I retired on our return from COVID. I went back to teaching for a year. I taught virtually because I couldn't do it in the classroom. And I realized through that year, after going on medical leave in November of that year, that it was time to retire. And it was time to, I didn't know it at that time. I said I was going to get healthy, but really, I think I thought I was just going to go lay down and die like a little dog in the woods. And that's what I did. I went to my bed and I was so depressed. I've been depressed throughout my life several times, but never like this one. I could not get out of bed. If my husband pulled the curtains in the morning, the only thing I would do is go pull them back, close the blinds, pull the covers over my head, and I would stay there until about 20 minutes before he came home. And I would get up. Sometimes I would put clothes on, and sometimes I'd stay in the same pajamas for weeks. I had to convince myself to take a shower, and I would sometimes scroll on my phone. And I was lucky enough to be scrolling and repeatedly seeing the same ad from Whitney Freya, who is one of my mentors now, thank goodness. And she was talking about an intuitive painting practice where you meditate and paint for 21 days. And the group Ions was doing a study to see if painting and meditation increased your psychic abilities, increased your in-tuneness. And I was raised in a spiritualist church, and I was accustomed to being in touch with my own personal spirit guides and in touch with my father who passed when I was 4. And so this really awakened something in me because I'd shut all that down. I had in the closet, I wasn't talking to anybody. And that's what I call it. It was like I was in a little closet and I was shuttered away from the rest of the world. And so I started painting, and that opened a little world. And then I found Jessica Hughes, another mentor of mine, thank goodness. And she talked about journaling and painting, and she gave you permission to write it real. And she gave you permission to journal anything you wanted to journal and then paint over it. So the paint didn't scare me. It scared some people. But I was like, oh my gosh, I can write anything I want. All my dreams and all my fears, and cover them up with something beautiful. And so then through Jessica, I found Garen Jones and began learning about healing my body and bringing my body back online. And so all of these people combined in this beautiful little container where then I found the Radical books, the Creative Life book series through Jessica, and found Radical Magic and joined this group and really began to define my life and my life's work through Body Odyssey, which started back when I found painting in the first place. I realized the Odyssey I was on. And I had started using painting before I went into big procedures like the liver that I talked about. I had a liver biopsy, and the night before I created this beautiful painting of a woman embracing a yellow heart, which yellow represents the liver. And so, I use all of this in my own life, and I've put myself through Body Odyssey. I'm now on my 5th spiral outward. And so I don't go to those dark places anymore because I have a method for allowing me to stay in tune with my life and to realize the gifts that I have and the magic that I'm supposed to be bringing forth in this life.
How did you realize that it was time for you to start helping other people too?
I just had that little niggling dream inside my head that I had come through this Body Odyssey, and I came up with the name 5 years ago, I knew that there was something attached to the name. I just couldn't quite define it. And because I knew there was something attached to the name, I realized that it was supposed to be something in the world. That's just the way I was raised, understanding that if something doesn't go away, it has meaning. And so I was looking for, how does this have meaning? Am I supposed to write a book? Because people have always said I'm great with words, and they always come to me to write the emails, and for me to write the chapters, and for me to write the introductions. And so initially I thought it was a book to help other people. And then I realized that really I was supposed to be coaching people one-on-one or in small groups to help them move through, because you can read all of this, but you're not going to fully immerse yourself truly into it. You're going to skip the chapter on painting if you're afraid of painting. You're going to skip the chapter on movement if you don't like moving. So I realized then that it was a coaching practice, and I started practicing with a few of my friends and my family, and seeing the shifts that it made in them was just magical. And I knew that this was the calling that had been waiting for me at this point in my life. My second Saturn return was manifesting itself. And that was all just woo-woo out there stuff to me before. I didn't realize that truly I could have a second half of my life. And I mentioned I just started my last round of Body Odyssey. And in the very first session, somebody messaged the group and said, look, you and I were at a retreat last year, and when y'all were out dancing, I was watching from my yurt because I don't move. And I went to a wedding this weekend, and I danced and danced and danced and danced. And I had so much fun. And I felt at home in my body doing it for the first time in decades. That's what this is about. That's why I'm doing this, is to help people be at home in their own bodies again, because we all started there. None of us were born being out of alignment in our bodies. It happened at some point. And some of us, it did start in infancy because of something that happened to us. And in some of us, for me, it was, initially my father dying at 4, and then a stepfather who was abusive at 7. But it really, for me, started at 11 when I started internalizing the messages that were being sent to me from out there. It didn't start until I started believing the messages. And that was at about age 11. And now I get to realize that we all do that, and it's okay, and it's part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really important to know, that we all do it. It's not, one person or just you.
No.
Now, if someone's listening right now and they want to start implementing your method, what's the very first thing they should do today?
Oh, that being in your body is number one. Being in your body. And then you reach out to me and I support you on the rest. Get yourself embodied. But truly, people talk about a meditation practice, whatever it is that brings you back in touch with your body. So whether it's, you have to start by getting to know yourself, and you start that by being in your body and allowing yourself to just pay attention to those things around you. For some people, their art is not painting, it's knitting. And they knit stories and they heal themselves through knitting. And what are we doing when we're knitting? We're also breathing calmly. And we're doing some simple little movements with our hands. And we're doing some repetition there. And we're being in alignment with whatever pattern is coming before us. And we might begin by then seeing, if we're paying attention, seeing that we can use that same strategy in our own lives. Other people, it's gardening. Other people, it's cooking. And I like doing all of those. And I use the creative method of all of those to allow myself to remain embodied. So it starts with embodiment, and it starts with really paying attention to what messages you're seeing from yourself or from the universe out there.
And when someone goes through your method, Kate, what kind of transformations can they expect once they've completed it? Did you say it was a 12-week program?
It's 9 weeks. 9 weeks. And it's a 7-step process. It's 9 weeks of experience, because we have an onboarding week where we go through all of those 7 elements and really people get in touch with what those elements mean for themselves. And so they'll know that when we go through them pretty quickly in the next sessions, they're all 2-hour sessions. And then there's a middle of the road integration week where we really just have some heart seat coaching and bringing forth stories that maybe the group can support with. So at the end of that 9 weeks, you're going to be more in touch with your gifts. The messages are going to come more clearly to you about what your expression in this life is. And you're going to start to heal your body and come to wholeness in the rest of yourself. As I mentioned, the one example of the person who's already dancing, another woman messaged our group and told of one of the being in your body experiences that I led them through was feeling the roots into the ground. But instead of those being little roots, I called them big ass roots going down. And they felt themselves dissociating in a stadium at a reunion. And they literally pulled themselves back with remembering those big ass roots that they had put in the ground, and they held themselves there. They didn't permit themselves to dissociate out. Those are the things that you're going to see when you begin embracing your life and employing those methods into your life. You're going to see yourself coming back into relationship with yourself and relationship with others.
You've inspired me so much today. I want to go buy stuff to start knitting and cooking, and I want to get art supplies for my kids to be painting. I just love this. Like, it's so real and true. If we don't have some of these fun things in our life, what is there?
Yeah.
And can you tell me, like, what is your ideal client? Who do you love to work with?
You know, that's been the hardest thing for me, because my ideal clients are the people I've practiced on so far. And they're everybody I've met, because we've all got a body. And the people who are resonating most and signing up for my courses are people who are at that stage in their life where they think they've wasted their life and that their life is over, and that they think they were made for more. They were made to do more in this life than they've done. And they feel that spark still in there, but they don't know what to do with it. They might be retired. They might be near retirement. They might be on their 14th career trying to find that which lights them up on the daily. And they're out of alignment with their bodies in one way or another. They feel like their body is an enemy and is just trying to derail them. I thought my body was trying to just kill me. And instead I realized that all the armor I'd put on all those years just kept me further from understanding the messages my body was sending me. And so there are people who might have put on layers of protection and weight. There are people who may have isolated themselves from the public and stay in their house and don't go out. There are people who might have joint problems or chronic headaches or digestive issues. They're people whose bodies are signaling to them that they're out of alignment with their own purpose in this world, and they're ready to start learning how to be at home in this one body temple that we get to walk this life in, and to start seeing their body as a temple instead of a vehicle, to start treating it like a place of worship, as a holy space instead of a vehicle that we don't want to get the extended warranty calls on anymore. And they're typically women, but I've also worked with men. You know, I mentioned, I don't know, maybe I didn't mention that here, but my birthday was this weekend and we had a birthday celebration, and I've recently gotten off sugar, and which was the last major hurdle of mindset in what I take into my body, because I'd already eliminated a bunch of the other, as my good friend Julie Alsakar says, Frankenfoods. And so I eat real food now. And so I had a whole birthday celebration set up, and my husband came in with chips and dip and potato salad and brats and hot dogs on side of my chicken sauté and broccoli salad and roasted broccoli and roasted green beans and a chocolate beetroot cake. And he knew not to make a cake because he knew about the sugar, but he didn't understand that I really mean it, not just for myself, but for my whole family. So they were my ideal clients that day. He was my ideal client that day. And my great nephew, who's 6, sat and painted with me after we moved and breathed and ate to nourish our bodies. And we painted a little library I'm going to put out in front of my house. And he comes saying, when are we painting? When do we get to paint? Every time he comes, because he understands that that is an anchor in his life. He draws when he's at home. Nobody else lets him paint. He comes here to fly free and paint. So really, anyone with a body and anyone who's open enough to express in that body in their true way.
And going back to your husband, you had mentioned earlier, you had stayed in your room and even didn't want the curtains open, and you had gained a lot of weight. Tell me about that. How did that, how are you now? I mean, it sounds like you've really transformed. And how was your husband's relationship with what he saw, what was going on? How did he react?
I'm really glad you asked this question, because this isn't something that's come up in any of my publications. But it's part of what really created Body Odyssey to be the multiple step process that it is. And there's a second element of Body Odyssey where I work with people with their partners. So I had gastric sleeve 2 years ago. I had a knee replacement a year ago. But before that, over 300 pounds, probably 320 and maybe more. And my husband had always tried to say, I love you no matter what. But what I believed is he loved me thinner, because I know his type, right? I know he likes thin women. And so I saw myself as outside of his circle of love for decades. In the last 2 years where I retired and kept gaining weight and kept getting sick, my mom and husband both had a conversation unbeknownst to me. And my husband said, look, I'm trying, but she has to want it more than I do. And right now I want it more than she does. I want her to live more than she does. And I don't know how to get through to her. When my mother told me that, so I also have a blood disorder that was part of what caused the blood clots. And so I needed to be in a hospital that could handle the blood disorder as well as the gastric sleeve. And so I went to live with my mother for what we thought was going to be 3 months, and it ended up being 13 months away from him. And what it did was opened a door for me to come back home to him in a way. But in my mind, he liked thin women. And if he liked me thinner, if he was more affectionate with me thinner than I was heavier, I knew I was going to sever the ties in this relationship. So the second level of Body Odyssey that I created is one where I literally painted my body on a life-size canvas. I traced all of the lumps and bumps. I painted in all of the lumps and rolls. I painted the size of my jowls, because I didn't have cheeks, I had jowls. I wish there was a way to show a former picture of myself here, because when I look at it, I don't even recognize that woman. Those eyes are not alive. I don't know how my husband looked in the eyes of that woman and did not call the authorities to come get me and take me away, because I was not in there. So I created this body and I wrote on it all of the things that I was frustrated with and angry with and hurt about on my body. That my weight kept me from being able to do things, that my knee, isolated me, that my face was disgusting to look at, that my blood clots stopped me from being able to perform, that my arms were blah, blah, blah. And then I literally both caressed me and caressed the painting. And I painted on it all the beautiful things that those things did. The weight protected me. The weight provided a soft place for kids to land when they ran in to hug me. My breasts nourished my children. My cheeks still allowed a smile in there. And my bones were doing the best they could to keep me walking, to keep me moving. My poor knee, God bless it, was holding me up with all of this weight it was never intended to carry, and it did it anyway. And I asked him to come look and see what he saw. And I have a tendency to paint in blues. So my body was all blue. It wasn't like a natural tone. It was all blues and purples, and the outside is all reds. And so that's where he started. I see a blue body. And I think it's you. What else do you notice? There are words on it. What else do you notice? And he got in and he looked and he said, oh my God, I didn't know you felt that way about yourself. And I'm so glad you see the gifts that your body brings, and I can help you see more. And so that next level becomes pretty intimate, because then we wrote on my body with washable crayons, and we turned my body into that painting and gave it thanks and gave it gratitude for everything it brought. And so that was, I had done the research. I knew that 70 to 90% of couples after a gastric bypass or gastric sleeve, after a bariatric surgery, end up divorced or separated. And we had come 20 some years and I wasn't willing to let it go. I had this man trained by now. He was doing laundry and groceries. He was doing most of the cooking. He saw me in that painting when he looked closer. I didn't want to lose this man. I wanted for us to stay connected throughout. And so because of that level of connection and intimacy, and me being willing to literally bear it open, and it's not submit, it's go within and really release all of the armor, to put down the armor and literally pick up the art supplies in my life and remain connected with that which matters, and not remain connected with my fight and my armor and my sword, that I was going to vanquish myself and, take back all the places where I had. No, it was about submitting and becoming softer and becoming human. And in that, we're stronger now than we've ever been. He's not seeing, like I said, he came with chips and dip. He's not translating that into his own life, but he's participating when I say, let's not go to the movies, let's go to the park and walk. Let's not go to the amusement park. Let's go to the Cave National Park and stay in a cabin and hike. And on those hikes and on those walks, we're having conversations about the life we dream of and the life that we want our children to have. And saying children, the smile that comes on my face is because they have thanked me for going through this process, because they have their mama back. They have back a whole human who is not just someone who raised them, but is an example for them to live their life by. And they're both doing the introspective work. And my husband's wife is right there with us. And we're all just on this journey of living in our bodies in the most healthy way that we can, so that our expression out into the world is as strong and as beautiful as it can be. So all of my relationships have improved. Long story for what seems like a simple question, but it really is a deep question, and one that is, I said I've been through this spiral 5 times, and I go out, and each time we go through a spiral, we pick up new knowledge from the earth and from the universe, and more knowledge each time and more knowledge each time. And I always say that when I started this, I was flat on my face on the ground, and then I could raise my head on the next round, the spiral. And on the next spiral, I could sit up, and then I could sit on my knees, and then I could stand on my knees, and then I could stand. And now I stand before you, wholly willing to take on the lessons that come, the messages that are expressed in the universe, willing to look at the possibility that maybe the message I just gave someone was not trauma informed enough, not accessible enough, and that the next time around, I'm going to do it better. That I'm not going to ask you to identify kids from the age of 7 to 15 because not everyone has a safe person between 7 and 15. And I learned that because someone told me that, not because I just naturally see that, but I can stand here and hear that and make my program better, make my expression in the world better. And so I'm on my 5th time around this spiral, going all the way through the 9 weeks each time, allowing myself those integration weeks, allowing myself the opportunity to grow and then to rest and to pick it up later when something new comes around. And so, in that, we also go the opposite direction and inward in that spiral and come more intimate with ourselves. And I think it's in that intimacy with myself that all of this has found a home. And if you ask my mentors, they will tell you that for a long time, I was pivoting. And Jason's going to laugh if he listens to this because that was his word to me. You're pivoting again. There you go again. You've shifted again. You've changed again. And I had to keep changing and I had to keep shifting until I found that which was right and true to bring out into the world and to share with not just myself going around the spiral these times. Because when I go around it, I can shift and change and gather things and, collect them like a little squirrel. But when I'm giving it to other people, it has to have meaning. It can't just be these random exercises. So, now I have embodied myself into this practice and I'm able to teach it on the fly, talk it on the fly, not need a script. And that's what I want for people. I don't want people to have a script to run in their life. I want them to have a system where they know how to get grounded with themselves again, and they don't have to remember themselves through someone else's eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just heard a message very similar to this in church this weekend, regarding someone who was, going through life, raising their children, had their career, were busy people, and bam, all of a sudden, oh, I have a brain tumor. I have 2 bad knees. I have, all these things. And when we're not taking care of ourselves along the way, it catches up to us at some point, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. And, I hope and pray that people find Body Odyssey, find the Embrace method before their body shuts down into a place where they're crawling to get out of it. And even if that's where you are, that's where I was. And this method will help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually know of a few people I would like to send your way. Thank you so much. How can people get in touch with you?
So I am on socials as Ever So Kate. I do have a website that's eversokate.com. And that came around because I don't know why I'm telling you this story now, because I need it to make sense, I guess, to people. But I was Katie. I was Kate. I've been Catherine. And I've settled on Kate because that is the most familiar term that people used for me. It's feels like home the most, that when someone says, "Hey, Kate," that's the real me. That's the inner me. And so, we've been joking in Zooms and I've been Kate. I've been just Kate. I've been all of these things. And I am ever so Kate. I am ever so happy to be Ever So Kate. So you can find me on eversokate.com, on Ever So Kate on Linktree, Instagram, Facebook. I've got several messages out there that will help you become more aligned with or more informed on who it is I am and what I'm talking about if this little session didn't help you. But I've got several other options. I've got an Oracle deck coming out. I've got a quiz that's out there. And when you do the quiz for free, you'll learn a little bit more about where you are in that Embrace framework and maybe where you need to focus in your life, where your start can be without even signing up with me. So there are several options there available on my website.
And then the Radical Company has been a huge part, I would imagine. What's changed in your business or your life since working with the Radical Company that maybe you didn't expect?
I can give you 2 words. What hasn't? It's all changed. It's all shifted. It's all come into clear vision. It's like I had a telescope from the beginning of our conversation, and I was looking out there at the Milky Way, and I knew I could see it, but I couldn't touch it. And what Radical Magic did was made me realize that that wasn't this out there telescope. It was within me. It was a telescope I was seeing inside me, and that I was the one that was to bring this into the world. That it wasn't that I was the creator, that that our creator assigned this job. Body Odyssey's been there for 5 years, and it was out there, this elusive dream. And I knew that it was supposed to come into the world. I didn't know how. It crystallized when I joined Radical Magic. When I joined Radical Magic 1 year ago, Embrace was born. It was born at the first meeting. And so as much as I've been doing this journey for the last several years, and I've been going through Body Odyssey, I've been going through it without direction and without clarity and without a method and without a system. And what Radical Magic helped me do is to bring all of those elements I was already doing and put them into this crystallized formula, my unique magic method. And it allowed me to actually have this package that I could bring into the world and bring people through in a systematic way. So, Radical Magic has really been the key to bringing Body Odyssey into the world through the Embrace method. All of the pivoting and all of the shifting and all of the changing was necessary for me to identify this. And then once I got it aligned, they've helped me put out all the social media that you see, all of the little videos that you see with me talking about my unique method. It's Radical Magic who's done that. It is in the supporting me in identifying my ideal client. If you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have gone to all the dark places because, first of all, the word client is a scary word for me because I saw this as selling, not serving, and not offering something to someone that they highly need in their lives. And that would be like the produce people not putting out broccoli because, not everybody loves broccoli. So it's been a mindset shift for me in realizing that bringing this into the world is as important as having broccoli at the grocery store. I have something to offer everybody and everybody. And Radical Magic has helped me align with that and understand that and stay centered on this journey and come back to places that I might have had weaknesses and to crystallize the vision in a way that might have happened someday, 25 years from now, when it was too late for me to actually bring this into the world and reach all the people who need to be reached right now in these times. So Radical Magic has been radically magic for me in literally every aspect of my business. And it has helped me understand that my business is not only a business, but it's an important one that people need in order to do their great work out there in the world.
Mm-hmm. And if you're talking to somebody who is considering the Radical Company, what would you tell them about your experience?
So it's going to challenge you. It's going to make you get real with who you are. And you wouldn't be at this point if you weren't ready to do that part. All the rest is gravy. All the rest is easy cheesy. All the rest becomes aligned because you have a core group around you who is going to support you on your journey. You have a system that is continually being developed and refined because they are doing what I did. They're learning and growing and becoming ever more magical. The systems that are there for you now are going to help you really flourish in your own expression. And you are going to have a community that is there with you, cheering you on. It's not just you and the Radical Magic team. It's you and all of us Radical Magicals who have signed up in order that we bring our dreams into the world. And I've talked about mirrors here in this conversation. And another way that mirrors align and show up for us is you seeing this community full of people doing these incredible things out there. And you can allow that itty bitty shitty committee to tell you that you don't belong in that crowd, or you can allow the mirror to show you you always have. And that in itself has been such a beautiful gift. And the radical magical little disco globe is all of those mirrors out there shining at you at whatever space, in whatever place you are in life, showing you your beauty, your gift, your journey, and how it is what the world needs. And they're selective in who they allow into that circle. So if you are on the fence and you have been invited into the circle, my God, take the jump, take the leap, and know that you will be seen, you will be heard, you will be supported.
Very good. Ever so, Kate. What a joy to talk to you today. Thank you for the work you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been wonderful to be able to not only talk about my work, but also to help someone else who might be thinking about this journey, and to give them the gift of understanding radical magic might be that lifeline you've been searching for.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining us on Radical TV today. We will talk to you again soon, I'm sure. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.